Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm the new chair of the board. My name is Barclay Russell. And before we move on to the other matters, I would like to welcome Kim Swanson, who is coming back to join us, and to really thank Brant McDaniel, who has been the chair and on this board and served very well for the citizens of Cobb County. So, also I'll ask you at this point in time to please silence your cell phones. Thank you. This is our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, and I will now call the meeting to order. Before we address this month's cases, I'd like to ask everyone who's able to stand as Officer John Lyons leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Officer Lyons. For those of you who do not have a copy of the agenda or who are attending or listening for the first time, we will concern ourselves with cases that are on consent. These cases that have been reviewed by the board and by professionals from various departments in the county, and to which there's no known opposition at this time. We have discussed the cases in our work session. Certain staff comments and stipulations have been made, and we do not anticipate any further discussion is needed for a decision. So as we go forward, the county zoning manager, Mr. John Peterson, will read each case into the record. Under normal circumstances, every applicant would be here in person, and we would ask them to raise their hand as their case is called. Since we now are following COVID protocols again, some applicants with cases on consent have been asked to listen to the proceedings from their cars just outside the building. They do not need to do anything unless there is opposition here. With that said, if you are here in opposition to a case that is currently on consent, we'll ask you to identify yourself as the case is read into the record. We'll then pull that case off consent and hear it as part of our regular case agenda. We will then vote on all cases still on consent at one time. Once we've approved the cases on consent, we'll either take a short break so that Mr. Peterson and his staff can follow up with any applicants if necessary. We'll then proceed to our regular case agenda. Otherwise, if there's no need for a break, we'll move directly to address other business. With that, I think we're ready to address the consent cases. Mr. Peterson, do you have any comments to make?
Yes, Madam Chair. I do have two announcements to make before we start consent. There is one case on today's printed agenda, variance case V134 of 2021, David Taylor. This case was held by the Board of Zoning Appeals until the February 9th, 2022 variance hearing. So V134 of 2021 will not be heard today. Also, we did receive a letter from the applicant's representative for variance case V6, Damian Lumsdead and Jennifer Lumsdead, and they did ask that this case be withdrawn without prejudice. So the staff would ask the Board of Zoning Appeals to withdraw variance case V6 without prejudice. And that's Brian's case.
Do I need to make a motion at this point? No.
Thanks, John. The only thing I would stipulate is that we give them 90 days for the removal of the structure, the pad, and there's a rather large stump. And like I said, all that happens within 90 days, basically back to its original state.
Do we need to take a motion on that at this point?
Is that a matter where one of you can assure Brian that those things will happen within 90 days without our acting on it, or is that something where we need to deny the request for a continuance or the request to withdraw and deal with it here?
There's no need to stipulate it because the applicant has already agreed to it voluntarily to do it.
Correct. I'm just reiterating it.
Hey, I gotta learn. All right. So everything's clear. So do we have any, you're going to please read the cases into the record at this point?
Well, we need a vote from the
We need
BZA
a
to
motion
withdraw
on that particular.
V6
I'm
without
sorry, folks,
prejudice.
it's my first time around, and I'm going to make mistakes. So I need the motion. Just, are we ready to vote to withdraw?
Just take a vote.
Pardon me?
Just take a vote to withdraw.
That's what I said.
Yes.
Make a motion to withdraw. You did, Brian, can you restate that?
Make a motion to withdraw without prejudice, variance 6.
Okay. Do I have a second? Yep. We now can vote, please. Vote. It passes by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'm ready to start the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for January 12th, 2022. First case on consent is variance case V130 of 2021. PE Georgia LLC requests a variance to allow an electronic sign along a road with less than 200 feet of frontage, which is 180.15 feet. And number 2, increase the electronic messaging portion of the sign from 32 square feet to 33.1 square feet in land lot 216 of the 20th District. The property is located on the west side of Kennesaw Due West Road and on the east side of Stylesboro Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to traffic comments. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V130?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V2, Travis Chapman requests a variance to number 1, allow an accessory structure, which is a proposed 1,050 square foot detached garage to be located closer to the side street right-of-way line than the principal building. And number 2, reduce the major side setback for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for the proposed 1,050 square foot detached garage from required 100 feet to 13 feet in land lot 258 of the 16th District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Camrose Court and Camrose Place. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, no residential dwelling use or commercial use of the accessory structure. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V2?
We have some opposition.
4? Okay, we got 4 opposed, so we'll pull that off consent. Madam Chair and Board, just put that in its regular order. Okay? Variance case V3, John Bobrowski and Christine C. Bobrowski request a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious coverage from required 35% to 39.5% in land lot 552 of the 16th District. The property is located at the northern terminus of Ellery Way, west of Holly Springs Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V3?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V4, Thomas J. Hartnett III requests a variance to reduce the rear setback from required 30 feet to 22 feet in land lot 296 of the 20th District. The property is located at the western terminus of Silverthorne Drive, south of Pocono Way. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to sewer comments. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V4?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. And finally, variance case of V5, Scott Chappelle requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious coverage from 35% to 44% in land lot 1004 of the 17th District. The property is located on the north side of Rivers Cobb Boulevard, east of Soaring Hawk Point. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to number 1, stormwater management comments, and number 2, no additional accessory structures in the backyard. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V5?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board, except for variance case V2, which we will hear in its regular order.
Right. So it's back to the board. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns about any of these cases from anyone?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just have one for the applicant on B130, our applicant's counsel. There have been a change requested, and The last revisions I see in our book suggest that the last change was on 9/3/2021, but my recollection is that a change occurred subsequent to November, or in November, to change the dimensions of the sign.
Yeah, Madam Chair and Board, that's correct. November 22nd, 2021, I submitted a letter on behalf of the applicant that included the original variance requested and then the additional variance of increasing the sign area from 32 to 33.1 square feet, and that included a rendering of that sign at that dimension, 33.1. So for it to be accurate, it should reference the November 22nd letter from me.
Okay. Can you just give us the the change in width of the electronic sign as a result?
The overall area is 33.1. I believe the dimensions now are, this shows 56.4 width by 84.6 in height. That's the actual electronic area, not the overall sign.
Okay, so there's a reduction from 65.8 in width of the electronic sign to 56.4?
That's correct. The width was
Okay.
reduced for that.
Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for that stipulation, and thank you for letting Georgia win one.
Okay.
Of the consent agenda, consent cases. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion, second? So, Mr. O'Malley made the motion, Mr. Pallone seconded. Now we will take a vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All in favor? For those of you whose cases were on consent, you are free to go now. If you're here in your car, if you are here, we ask that you please leave quietly. Do we need to take a break at all, Mr. Peterson?
No.
Okay. All right. We are now ready to proceed with our regular case agenda.
Okay. First case on regular agenda is variance case V1, Supreme Sign Service. Request a variance to number 1, allow total sign area over 120 square feet to 200.04 square feet. Number 2, allow a single freestanding sign over 200 square feet of sign area. Number 3, allow a freestanding sign over 49 square feet to be 200.04 square feet. Number 4, increase the maximum height of a freestanding sign from 19 feet to 80 feet. And number 5, allow a pole sign instead of a ground-based monument style sign in land lot 851 of the 17th District. The property is located at the southern terminus of Corporate Plaza, south of Windy Hill Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V1? 2. Let the record show there's 2 people here opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please state your name for the record.
Nilesh Patel.
Okay. You will have 10 minutes to present your case, as well as the opposition will have their own 10 minutes. So with that, please proceed.
I'm not sure what the opposition, what they're arguing about, what's the issue.
They will present
the
their argument.
location, I can tell you a bit about the location. It sits a bit further back, so the property cannot be seen when you turn down Corporate Plaza. That's why I'm requesting the sign placed where it is. I'm okay with moving it. I think our neighbors are not happy that it sits directly in front when you turn down the street. And I looked over it, and I do have some other suggestions to see if we can work it out, which is moving it a bit to the right, so when you go down the circle and you're looking directly at the building in front, if you pass this down, please. It's a blue line.
Okay.
Right now is where the solid blue line is, and that's the building behind us. And I'm suggesting to move it a bit to the right between the two blue lines and the red line, so it doesn't go directly in front of that building.
Okay. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, you may take a seat.
Thanks.
The opposition may come forward. Good
John
afternoon.
Copeland,
Please state your name for the record, and if you can, remove your mask so we can
I'll be fine,
capture.
too. John Copeland with Sequoia Heritage LLP. The building you see in that picture there is the property that I represent. Do I need to take the staple out of there? Yeah, RB1. All right, got it. Okay, but even there, this is what we're seeing. And just so you know, that pole that I got there was off the Red Roof Inn, 80-foot sign or 60-foot sign. I didn't measure how tall it was. But that marking there is graffiti. You're going to have a ton of graffiti, everything else on that thing, plus the fact I don't think anyone here would want a large pole sign in front of their yard or in front of their property. Second, it would greatly, if you go to the next page, this is more in line with what their picture is. I mean, isn't that attractive? It's would devalue our property, and I cannot help but think the property surrounding there, it's going to devalue. Where they have right there, where they're trying to place that sign, was truly set aside for utility use only. That's where the two transformers are already set. It was not meant to have signs. The other situation I come back to, why in the world would you put a sign to your business right next to my driveway? Their driveway is way up here. If you turn the page, that gives you the dimensions. I hope if you guys have a copy of this. If not, I will get you one, but I was supposed to have been able to get you one. They're going 17 feet down. I mean, that's a lot of concrete at 5-foot diameter. It would increase sign clutter and pollution on this parkway. It's a small street. There's only 5 businesses on this street. There's 2 hotels up in the front, and there's this one now that's coming in, and then there's 3 office buildings. So once again, I'm just not quite understanding why they would want to do this. The jumbo sign is not needed. I've gone to many hotels. We use our GPS. I've had tenants come to our building, and you can easily see by using your GPS map, Quest, or whatever, you can get to the property. You don't need some obnoxious sign way up or even 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet tall to get to this property. The other side, too, is if you look at the cul-de-sac, if you try to come in from the south side, it makes no sense. There's no way you can enter. Behind Target there, if you see a sign behind Target, you're going to have people trying to go behind Target, and once again, there's no ingress, egress to Corporate Plaza Parkway except out at Windy Hill. So it makes no sense to have a 2-sided sign that's facing back to the south and does not allow any way to get to that property or provide proper signage to get to that property. A solution would be, 1, right in front of Red Roof Inn, they already have the 60, 80-foot sign. Why not go ahead and add their sign to that sign? That would be something they'd have to work out with the property owner, but it makes a lot more sense. The other thing I've noticed, we're only allowed one monument sign and maybe a sign on the building. They've already been agreed to. If you go back to go past the writing here. Cobb County has already agreed to give them signage on the building, up in the front. They give it to them on the side. Wait a second. Do you see what I'm talking about? Yep. Yeah, they get a nice signage right there. Turn the page and they get a signage on the side. And then they have a beautiful monument sign, which is wonderful. Don't have any problems with any of that. Then all of a sudden you come to this jumbo, and it's actually referred to as a highway sign, and we're almost 2 blocks away from the highway. So from our perspective, and talking to some of the other property owners, really don't see any need for a highway sign back there. The other thing, board members, if you'd like, I have signed here 3 of the 5 property owners that were sent certified letters stating that they don't want it. When I was parking, I finally got a hold of the 4th. There's 2 of the 5 that are out-of-town property owners. The one that I was talking to is 2205, and they're receptive. They just have to send it through their channels, but it took me a week to try to find out who it was that could sign off on it. I'd need about 3 months to get Target, because that bureaucracy at Target is very, very challenging. But I can't help but think that Target would even say they really don't want some sign on the backside of their building sticking up when people come into Target. So, any questions? Oh, he's another owner, yes. So,
Oh,
Yeah, I own the building next to his building.
you might take your mask off.
And Jeff Stratton. And, it just seems like Cobb County and the state have cleaned up this exit so much over the last 10 years. I mean, Windy Hill exit is very different than it used to be. And I don't see them approving or building signs like this at any of the new apartment buildings, at any of the new retail buildings. This is way above and beyond anything else that's been approved. So it seems like a step in the wrong direction when the state and the county are spending so much money to clean up this exit, which is right next to the battery, that has so much good going for it, that, this is doesn't look like anything else in our neighborhood, our little tiny neighborhood of one street. I think, like John said, they've been approved for signage. Let's stick to that. I'm a builder. I have to stick to what, is on approved plans. I don't get to just change them at the end. Or I don't get certificate of occupancies at any of the hospitals or buildings in Atlanta that I build and renovate. So, to me, I would hope the commissioners would just stick with what's approved and what's legal. 3 of the owners of buildings adjacent are against it. There's a 4th we're trying to get. I do know somebody in corporate real estate at Target in Minneapolis that I'm in touch with, so we'll try to get them to put something on paper, but it just doesn't fit with anything in the area.
thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else to speak to in opposition? Okay. Since this case is in District 2, I will ask Ms. Swanson to lead the discussion.
Could I please, am I on? Sorry. Could I ask Mr. Copeland to come back up to the stand, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I just have 2 questions. I went and visited this yesterday, and when you're coming off of Windy Hill, down to the property. Is there a grade difference from Windy Hill down to your office building?
Yes, I would say there's two different grades. One from Windy Hill down to the cul-de-sac, which you can see right there. This picture doesn't show it, but it does go down, and I can't tell you the exact 10 feet or so, I'd say. Then what happens also with our building is the street level's right here, then it goes down, again, I'm not going to say 8 feet, 10 feet. I don't know the exact how far it's below street level, but it's not at street level. So the 80-foot sign actually from our building would look much, much larger than that. And again, my whole contention is, even if it's a 10-foot pole, why do you put it next to my driveway? Okay, sorry.
So I understand that. I just wanted to ask the question with regards to the grade. And then, is there, as a compromise, is there a location that you feel would not devalue your property that would be better located on this property?
Anything north of their driveway where their memorial sign is, or monument sign, my bad, monument sign, I don't think the problem I've been talking with two of the other property owners, saying, why do we even want a sign? And they already have 3 signs. I agree with Jeff, the other property owner. They get more signage than we get, and they're wanting more. And I'm
Right.
just like, I get it, I guess, but it's just not right. And according to the code and so forth, the whole purpose of this is to keep the clutter down, to keep our neighborhood and so forth attractive and keep our property values up. I see no value to any of us with a large jumbo sign.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you for answering the questions. Thank you. Can the representative for the applicant come forward again? Sir, I didn't get your name. Can you repeat it again?
Neil Patel.
Neil? So given that there is a grade change that goes all the way down, when I was driving around trying to, so I was basically trying to find the Red Roof Inn, which that sign was approved in 1983 for 280 square feet sign that's 100 feet tall. So I started out on going on the 40 or the 41, and then I cut through Target, which you can't get to Corporate Plaza by Target. But when I was in that area, I couldn't even see the Red Roof Inn sign. So then I went back around and came down Windy Hill, and it was kind of difficult to even see the Red Roof Inn sign then, unless I wasn't paying attention to the cars in front of me and wanted to look up high, because it is placed pretty high. I didn't travel down the 75 to see if I could see the Red Roof Inn sign from there to see the height and if it could attract people to your hotel just based upon these enormous signs in the air. So, but then I contacted a person, Gary, from Supreme Sign Services. Are you from Supreme Sign Services?
No, but I believe someone is here.
So are you the applicant?
I'm the owner of the property.
You're the owner of the
Yes,
property?
yes.
So you have the authority to say what we could do or couldn't do? You have that?
I did.
Okay, because I had asked Gary to have the applicant to call me,
I did not.
and I didn't get any,
I didn't get that message. I'm sorry. I would have called.
because I called Gary twice and talked to Gary,
Yeah.
and he said that he was supposed to be here, and he was presenting it, so. I talked to the opposition, and I totally understand their point in that when I was going down Corporate Plaza, which is actually the area is getting cleaned up, and that's important because this kind of went downhill for a while. So when I drove down the hill and tried to envision where you wanted to place this pole sign, it's a rather large pole sign. It's right next to the green Cobb EMC boxes, and it's not very attractive having your Cobb EMC boxes, which you don't have a choice of where they put them. But then to put this large sign, there's kind of really unattractive. And I don't think it's really necessary because of the grade, it's not going to give you, I don't think you're going to have the sight because it'll bring the size of your sign down to that of Red Raffin. Red Raffin is at the top. So I would think if you want to maximize, and I can understand that there is a hardship in that you don't have signage, you can't put signage out on Windy Ridge.
Correct.
Because you don't have any property there. So there is a little bit of a hardship that you can't see the fact that your hotel is on this street. So I feel that it would be more beneficial to move this sign, if this is what you want, to bring guests to your hotel, even though I think GPS might be better. I feel it would be really suit you well to allow a sign that is going to be higher than what was approved by the Red Raffin, and to move it closer to, as we're looking at the map, where it comes to the top portion, right there, in that location. I know that probably this was going to be some of your parking, but I think that I don't think that would be an issue to put the signage there. That would give you a sign that would actually appear to be higher, that you could see from the street, than being down this grade. So that is something that the opposition felt that it would be better than where it is, or just go with having no pole sign and just keep the signage that you have on the building and then the sign in the front.
Since the property sits so far back and it is a hotel, we definitely need some sort of signage where guests could see when they come down the street to see which direction to go. The placement where you said there's a lot of trees, what would block it when you come down that street. That's why I suggested the other placement. I think if we can just pull it up, that I had up before. So where the red line goes in that area, where it's not directly in front of our neighbor's building. I don't know if I have a better picture. Okay, I'm trying to get. Don't know if this helps. Where the road goes straight down, kind of in between that area versus to the right of it where the sign marking is, where it should not be directly in front of the neighbor's building where you physically drive up. Can you pull it down a little bit? So I can see the neighbor's building up a bit. Up. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I honestly say, when I went down that street, I can't see the Red Raffin, and I'm surely not going to see this sign 100 feet up in the air, because I'm not going to be looking for a hotel signage that's that far up in the air. If you think that a person that's driving down the street that's driving down the street and you want to have visibility of a sign, I think that your monument-based sign could be positioned a little bit, and you can decide on that without having a variance because you've been approved for that sign, but you may want to look at how you would position that so that when somebody's coming down that road, they'll see the red roof over into the corner, but then they'll also see this sign as well, which is more in line to someone driving a car on the road. Then people aren't looking 100 feet or 100 feet up in the air for signage.
So I'm okay with reducing the height some and putting in that position. Or the last suggestion would be the position you recommended, but it would have to be higher because of the trees.
Well, the position, I believe that if you want to have that sign, the freestanding sign, that you will get the best result of people seeing it possibly from the road if you move it up. Because
Okay.
then you're not having it down here as there is an incline. You will not have it down here. You're going to gain more visibility without having a larger sign. You're going to gain more visibility with the size of your sign, having it up to the top.
Okay.
So if that's something that you don't feel is doable, then we can,
It is doable in that location, correct?
going up to the top.
Correct. Not
Over
on top
by-
of the retaining wall because the footing would be too big to fit on top of the retaining wall, but on our elevation of land, we do have a spot.
You can move this sign to where the location that we discussed, up to that corner.
Correct.
Not where you have the.
Recommended this corner right here?
Can we pull that down? Can we pull it down a little further, please? Okay, so,
Coming down the street and you're recommending here?
right, off the
Correct.
road.
Yeah, we do have a space there. The trees are very tall in that area, but, I mean, it could be done.
So you agree that that would be, that you could do that? You
I
would
do.
do that?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Does anyone else on the board have any questions? You do? You all, yeah.
Can I get the applicant back up? Is part of your sign's purpose to have visibility from the interstate, from Highway 41, or just when somebody's coming down the street? If you could
Someone's
just
coming down
explain the
street.
tension here.
Yeah.
Which one?
When someone's coming down Corporate Plaza.
That's it? You're
Yes.
really not trying to establish visibility from Interstate 75 or from?
I don't think it would be possible. It would not be.
Okay. And you're willing to work with the District 2 board member to try to come up with a solution that's more palatable to your neighbor and?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I would like to make a motion that we deny V1 and that you work with the opposition, Mr. Copeland, and you work with District 2 Variance Commissioner as to where you can place the sign that you've already been allowed, the monument-based sign, to place that sign where it will get you the greatest visibility for people that are turning onto Corporate Plaza, so that they'll know that further down the road, there's your beautiful hotel. And so that's my motion.
Second motion.
Thank you. Mr. O'Malley seconded the motion.
Perhaps just a short discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to read it.
Just for council or the staff, is this something where it's going to put the applicant to additional expense to file a new application, or is there any bar that would attach by denial, as opposed to allowing him to try to modify this after meeting with the District 2 board member to work on an alternative proposal?
Yes, there would be a prejudice period here. So if this board did reject it, he could not come back for 12 months. So it's changed a little bit since you were here last, Commissioner Swanson. So, you know, if everyone's willing to work together, then maybe we can look at either having him offer withdrawing the case, which would not leave a prejudice period, or just have this board hold the case for a month or two. But if this board rejects it, he can't come back for 12 months.
Continuance.
So he's already been approved, Mr. Peterson. He's already been approved for a monument-based sign when he put in the application to the Board of Commissioners. So it would be a modification of that monument sign, because it's not an additional sign on
No,
the property. It would be just modifying possible placement where it had been approved by the Board of Commissioners for his monument-based sign.
Yeah, and the pictures that were shown of the signs on the building, the two sides, and the monument-based sign, you know, those are signs that meet the sign code, so they don't need any further approval. They just have to follow the code.
So can they place that monument-based sign anywhere on that property
Correct.
without having to come back here and without having to?
That's
to
right.
They can do that?
That's right.
Okay, so then I could continue with denying it, and then he can decide what he wants to do with already approved sign, where he wants to put that on the property for the best visibility?
That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Yeah. Is there another action we could take to give them time to work together and come back? No, yes? No?
I guess
Okay.
I guess my rationale over this is that this rather very tall sign is not going to give you the visibility that you stated that what you wanted. And that was the visibility coming down Corporate Plaza to see your hotel. The sign is too tall, in my opinion. It's a sign that is for businesses that are off of the freeway, and someone's driving at night and you're like, oh, there's a hotel I can pull over. But you stated this sign that's going to stick up 100 feet tall is for people coming down Corporate Plaza. And again, I spent over like half an hour going around in circles just to find the Red Roof Inn sign. And I actually knew where Red Roof Inn was, so I was just trying to do it on the level of driving without having to look up and then creating an accident. There, in that area, with all the new development with the hotels in that area, because of the stadium, they don't have the big monument sign, the big pole signs. But because of what you stated, that this is just for coming down Corporate Plaza to know that your hotel is there, I think it can be better accommodated by placing the sign that's already been approved in a location that will give you that visibility. And I think that it'll make your property look really nice rather than having a rather large pole that you can't decorate, not on your property, and you can put flowers or trees or whatever. So that's my, I go back to, I deny this V1, and then you're free to work on that. So that's my recommendation.
Brian, was there a second?
A second.
Second. Are we all ready to vote then? So, let's vote to approve or deny. The motion passes to deny 5-0. Mr. Peterson, our next case.
Yes, ma'am. Next case is variance case V2, Travis Chapman, request a variance to number 1, allow an accessory structure, which is a proposed 1,050 square foot detached garage to be located closer to the side street right-of-way line than the principal building. And number 2, reduce the major side setback for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for a proposed 1,050 square foot detached garage from required 100 feet to 13 feet in land lot 258 of the 16th district. The property is located on the southwest corner of Camrose Court and Camrose Place. The applicant is present. Earlier, there was 4 people here opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Will the applicant please come forward? Good afternoon. If you'll state your name for the record, and you have 10 minutes to present your case.
Members of the board, afternoon. My name is Travis Chapman. I'm the applicant.
Hi, I'm Melissa Newton. I'm the owner of the residence.
So please bear with me. I'm not understanding exactly how the process is going to work. I've been making a few notes, so I'll move through. Not knowing exactly what some of the objections that are going to be, what I guess I plan to do is give you a little bit of background of what has transpired thus far, and then maybe give you a little bit of information with what I believe will be some of the points of objection. So when we kind of first started this endeavor, first move was to contact the HOA, our homeowner association of Woodbine Station. Met with the president at that time and kind of discussed how does this work, and it was kind of more of a, well, we want to make sure that the neighbors are informed. We also want to make sure that there is a process that your final designs and plans are submitted to the HOA. Okay, great. Learned about the Cobb County requirements and applied for the variance, and now here we are. So in anticipation of that, what we decided to do was also kind of identify and let those neighbors know what our intentions were. So we identified 7 surrounding neighbors, which are essentially what we estimate as far as kind of line of eyesight of where the structure would be proposed. We contacted them through the neighborhood directory via text message and said, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. Initially, 6 of those replied to the affirmative. The one negative that we did get was from the Evans. They did reply to the negative and express some concerns. We responded to those concerns via text and said, addressed the concerns that they brought up at the time, and then said, hey, if you would like to meet and talk about this further, we'd be happy to. No response. The remaining 2 adjoining property owners that are actually not in line of sight that we didn't get a text message, we did get their signatures as part of the application requirements. So essentially, we believe we've, contacted and met or, made efforts with all the neighborhood, all of the neighbors really on the street or on this particular street. Receiving kind of the negative was, oh, well, maybe we need to better explain it. So what Melissa decided to do, and I believe this works correctly, is she put together a flyer. And in this flyer basically says kind of up top, hey, this is what we're intending to do. Maybe you guys have seen those beautiful pink signs out in front of our yard, and this is what it's about. So we said, hey, here's where the property's going to be, showed an inset of the actual survey drawing that shows the property location, the actual distances to the property line, which I know gets confusing, we learned, with the actual street, the actual curb. And then what do we intend to do, what's it going to look like, and actually put some example pictures of architectural designs that we're using as far as concept. Now, I've met with some builders, gotten some rough budgetary price, but not really knowing if this is going to be approved. I don't have it exactly drawn up, but this is kind of a, hey, well, if we go forward, this is what I want kind of conversation. In response to that flyer, the Evans actually then reached back out to us and said, hey, actually, we would like to meet and discuss and kind of talk about your project further. So we met on the 29th. We discussed our plans, answered questions, and then affirmed again, I think this is going to be kind of the theme, our commitment that the building's going to complement the house. Right? I think that's been probably the theme that you're going to hear. But the things that we talked about, I went and flagged the exact location of where the building's going to be, and I walked that as best we could in the wooded area with Mr. Evans and said, hey, here's the building. This is where it's going to be. You can see how far it is from the street. It's not 13 feet like it sounds like. It's actually more like 26, things like that. We talked about building height, foundation, the exterior siding and facade, because I think that's very important when we start talking about aesthetics. Potential for landscaping, kind of kicking around, hey, I want everybody to be on our side and not unhappy with this. If landscaping would be help, I'd be happy to consider that as well. We did kind of talk about potential resale value questions, and honestly, that meeting adjourned, I think, on a completely positive note. Now, about a week after that, we were contacted again by Mr. Evans, said, hey, he wanted to meet again. So again, on the 5th, we came back out and kind of did the same terrain walk, same kind of conversation, reviewed a lot of the same points, and again, tried to review our commitment of we're intending to do this the right way. Aesthetically, we want this to be complementary to the house. All right, so that's kind of the background, I think, as far as the interaction thus far. Some things I think that you'll hear today. I think that there was a comment of, let's go back one, other things that we supplied at the time with that second meeting with Mr. Evans was this flyer of additional concepts. So again, some of the pictures are the same because we keep kind of finding the same things and tastes. So again, it was more of a, these are our ideas. This is what we're intending to do. Okay. Points that I think you're going to hear today. There was some talk of an alleged safety hazard created by block visibility of the structure. Otherwise unusable. It is extremely dense. You can't walk through there. As proposed, the nearest corner of that structure, as mentioned before, is actually 26 feet from the roadside. The structure would be actually set well within this dense wooded area. Given this location, visibility would not be negatively impacted in any way whatsoever. I guess what I've been told is there are some bushes as the road curves down the cul-de-sac, essentially right along the roadway. So from the roadside through this entire area is heavy foliage. You can't see through there. I don't know if this was going to work, but I've got a few pictures here. So first picture is just kind of orienting to, this is standing at the driveway looking to the left, and this is essentially the wooded area where the structure would be built within. Okay? This is a shot from the driveway as the street turns around and goes down towards the cul-de-sac. And as you go farther down the cul-de-sac, you'll notice a really dense area. And as we get closer, this is essentially from the location that we've marked about the closest point that the building is going to be. So if you go back to that one picture, this apparently is what we're saying is the visibility hazard or some sort of safety hazard. Now, this has not been brought up to us. This has not been brought up to the HOA. This, I think, is what's being claimed as, well, if we put the building here, you won't be able to see around the corner. I honestly don't see those two things related, because from this point, the building will be inset 26 feet. Okay, another point I think I've heard before is the lot size is too small for the garage. I kind of had to update my notes because actually on the way out this morning, this is a really large neighborhood. There's kind of two main streets, and on the main street that we live on, Pebble Hill, that kind of takes us all the way back to the back of the neighborhood, just in eyesight, and I kind of was trying to pay attention this morning, there's at least 8, if not 10, separate structures, whether they be garages or carports, that are detached or detached but attached with a breezeway, just within eyesight along Pebble Hill. Now, to my knowledge and best estimate, I think our lot is actually bigger than all of these lots. So don't really see kind of the statement that the lot is too small when clearly there are many other lots within the neighborhood that have had accessory structures put on there as well. I think the main takeaway is this, though. All of those structures, whether they be attached to the breezeway, completely detached freestanding, carport, garage, whatever, they all complement the structure. They're all built in the same kind of style, matching siding, things like that. They look like they're a part of the building. And again, the flyer that we shared, that's what we're saying our intent and commitment is. One of the other points I heard is it'll be unique to the style of the neighborhood. It's a very large neighborhood. There's 350 plus homes in this neighborhood. Probably the only common theme is there's no common theme of build inside the neighborhoods. I know some neighborhoods there are. Just make a note, there's Craftsman Cottage, Farmhouse, Ranch, Split Level, Cape Cod. I noticed the Salt Box, actually. There's even contemporary, modern, and even at the corner ourselves, Mr. Evans' house is kind of a white, traditional. The Baldwin's house next to it is a nearly all brick federal, and then next to that is a Craftsman with T111 siding. So right in there in eye shot, very highly varied source of building architecture.
You have your less
Yes,
than 1
ma'am.
minute.
So I think when we talk about property values, we've also kind of talked about there are subjectives and there are empiricals. You get your objectives through comps. You get your empiricals through basically your curb appeal. And that's really what our HOA is for. That's what our plan review is going to be, and that's what our intention and commitment is. So I appreciate you giving me the time to present. If there are any other points that come up, I'd be happy to come back up and address those.
Thank you. If the opposition can come forward with their comments, please. Good afternoon. Just state your name.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board, for having us today, giving us a chance to talk about this variance application, and obviously our opposition. Do have one attachment that I brought in. Yes, absolutely. Albert Baldwin. I live just across the street from Melissa Newton and Travis Chapman, her boyfriend. These are the three properties that are represented today by opposition. I live at 3940 Camrose Court. And then you can see here along the right side, we got Bill Evans representing 3930 Camrose Court, Guido and Sherry Reyes at 3950. We do have a lot of concerns. Travis obviously is aware of them. Travis is also very motivated to build the property. On this graphic, obviously I show our view towards their property. I did my best to kind of highlight the 1,050 feet footage, square footage that's referenced on the application, just so you guys understand how that kind of relates with the building structure itself. Kind of three main reasons for opposition myself. Obviously, it was mentioned, safety, devaluation of the house, and then also usage. There is a safety concern. He showed, Melissa and Travis both showed some photos of existing safety issues. I've been concerned, continue to be concerned about those hardwoods, that overgrowth close to the street. There's no doubt I'd love to see it addressed. I've actually helped Melissa cut down some other shrubbery that was much closer to the intersection of Camrose Place and Court to help increase visibility, which has greatly done so. But even still, I have 3 kids. I lived in the property since 2010, and we've had a lot of close encounters on that street. A permanent structure is not something you can cut back. It's not something you clean up. It's there forever. And so I'm absolutely concerned about something, especially in the position that's shown, creating more additional visibility issues. Now, just the other day, I was coming down the street, coming from the left, taking a right onto Camrose Court. Where that building would be would block additional street footage than is blocked now. There's no doubt. And again, and I'll get into it in my next point, visibility of this structure across the street is one thing that concerns me. And if any landscaping or anything's put up outside of that, again, that's going to further encroach to the street and continue down the path of me being concerned with the safety. Yeah, so once you get a permanent structure, my kids have already had close calls. I don't trust to let them ride their bikes, and they're at that age, along that street without me out there because of those close calls. So devaluation of the property, I certainly think this applies. There's noticed on different lots, I think the lots that are better suited for this type of build out. They have more than just a corner lot, as you can see in this photo. primary boundary on 3 different sides. You got Camrose Court, obviously that we're on. There's an additional cul-de-sac to the left that's not shown in this capture. Camrose Place to their front. So they're a 3-sided lot. I understand they have the desire to build, but it wasn't my choice how to build their lot. I don't think the structure would go well there, and especially not this close to the property line. This is something that I will go from looking at a little bit of their back patio and trees to looking at the side of a building. They had some great photos, some great concepts, but once the variance is approved, there's nothing that's going to hold them to that design or something that looks that way. To one side of the building, it's just hardy board. It's going to be the equivalent of a billboard. What they're planning to build is 1,050 square feet at the ground level, but they're looking at a 2-story structure with an apartment up top, and they want to build it to be level with their backyard, not with the street level. So this would require a bit of some retention wall to build that structure up. So I'm not going to be just looking at a building. I'm also going to be looking at retaining wall under it. 12-foot ceiling on the ground level or so is what Travis wants for his vehicle, so he can have clearance height to get inside there and work on them. And then an apartment up top, easily 26 feet, plus the retaining wall. So very tall structure, and it's close to the equivalent of the house. Each level of my floor is 2,150. I have 2,150 finished square feet. Each level is half of that. So what we're talking about building is much more than just your typical secondary structure. It is a primary size structure building. And I'll get into my next voice, and I'm also concerned about the usage. The reason he wants to build this, he being Travis, has a lot of off-road recreational vehicles that he likes to work on and build up. These are highly lifted, highly customized vehicles, diesel engines, very fun stuff, no doubt. But I don't think it's something that I want to hear or see somebody working on inside of a garage into whatever hours of the night. Obviously, running air compressors, having a workshop, a lift, chemical usage, these are all things that concerns me. And then in addition, having an apartment above could lead to future utilization for additional income, renting out that space, additional traffic for people that could potentially live there. And then, I had a note here, just again, there are detaches in the neighborhood, none of which are this close to the street. And yes, they complement, but I think they're built on a much more accommodating lot, and I don't think they have any of the safety issues, they don't create any of the safety issues that I have concerns with. Again, thank you for my time. Bill, do you have something to say?
Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Since this case is in District 3, Mr. O'Malley?
Hello. Thank you both for your presentation. Appreciate it very much. And very valid points from both sides. I can tell you I live near this neighborhood. I've traveled through this neighborhood. Since this variance came up, I've traveled through this neighborhood several times. As was mentioned, there is a extremely wide variable architectural standards in this neighborhood, and the precedent for having a detached garage, as Mr. Chapman has alluded to, they are all over this neighborhood, and they are very well done. This is a beautiful neighborhood. The detached garage, the detached structures are, from what I saw, are very well done, and like I said, it's a very attractive neighborhood. Being a very long time HOA president, Mr. Chapman and Melissa, I think that did an outstanding job as far as, first of all, before they began the process, informing their neighbors, especially their close neighbors, of what their intentions were and trying to explain as best they can without, spending a lot of money for detailed engineering, architectural drawings, what their intent is for this property. And I commend that. That's exactly what I requested our neighbors do when we had similar CCNR issues or requests to do something outside the normal for the property. I think Melissa's and Travis's willingness to work with the neighbors and to continue to work with the neighbors is also commendable, and I expect that will continue. What Mr. Baldwin in opposition, he referred to, I believe, 4 points, one of which was safety. And I could tell you safety is probably one of my main things that I'm focused on when I'm sitting up here trying to make a decision, what's best. He talked about devaluation. He talked about usage factor, and he mentioned the part of the second story and the potential of a living arrangement and stuff, and that is going to be that's already stipulated that there is to be no commercial use and or apartment dwelling or residential dwelling for this particular structure. It is a detached garage, which my understanding, Mr. Chapman wants to, as was alluded to, do some woodworking, some work on his vehicles and stuff. All normal stuff that homeowners, I think, have the right to enjoy so long as they go through the proper channels to get permission and do so, which I believe Mr. Chapman has done and will continue to do from having multiple discussions. I've been through this neighborhood. I've gone through, if I can explain this, and I don't mean to be light about this at all, again, because safety is number one, but we're talking about a court area and a cul-de-sac area. If vehicles are going more than 10 miles an hour, 10 to 15 miles an hour in this small area, they're going way too fast. What is present there right now without this structure, with the vegetation, is more of a hazard, as I see it, than what will be with this detached garage being in place. It's my understanding that Mr. Chapman has offered to clear out any hazardous blind spots, if you will, and or he's also afforded and offered to work with his neighbors, if there's anything else that he can do with vegetation to make it more attractive from their point of view, from their property. I've seen exactly from the opposition their point of view and what they would be looking at. As far as valuation, if I put myself in their shoes, which I always do, I do not see that this particular structure that Mr. Chapman intends to build would in any way devaluate anyone's property. In fact, I think it would enhance it. Again, the precedent in this neighborhood is there are a lot of detached garages, and the architectural standards vary greatly, which I really like. While I appreciate very much everyone's comments and thoughts and looking at everything, especially the safety factor, I personally do not believe there's a safety factor. I do not believe that there's going to be a devaluation of this structure to any part of the neighborhood, and especially the adjoining members. I do think it could even help enhance it from what I'm hearing from Mr. Chapman. And I know he's more than willing to work with his neighbors as they continue down this process. So I make a motion to continue and to approve the variance as stated with no stipulations.
Motion's made by Mr. O'Malley and seconded by Ms. Swanson. Are there any other questions?
One of the in the papers that they showed of what it was going to look like, it says that the second story is recreational space. That's not allowed in this property. The only thing you could probably do to the second floor is put in storage. Is that correct, Mr. Peterson?
For the accessory structure, they cannot have any dwelling, living space in it, so they can't have any kitchens or bathrooms or bedrooms. This structure is mainly meant to house his vehicles and for storage. It's not really meant to be a living space.
So then the description that he had placed with what the structure looked like, what the structure will be used at, they had the top part as a recreational space, and that would not be allowed.
Well, it just depends on what the recreational things are. If it's weights and exercise equipment, then that's probably going to be okay.
But they won't be able to have a restroom in the facility.
Yeah, they
that
just
would be
can't use the
something
living
you
No,
would have
that's
to go down.
residential use, and no.
Well, just so that
Recreational.
they clearly understand that, because the only reason I'm saying that is I have an accessory structure, and it's very limited what you can do with that space. And can you heat it, air condition it?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. And I just had one other quick thing is that it looks like it's a good distance from the main house. Is there any way that it could be pushed a little closer to the main house and get it off that road? Was there looking into that? Because it would be closer for them to run to go to the restroom if they're using the recreational space.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Travis, can you come up here and comment on that, please?
Sure, so if I understand the question, that how close is the structure proposed from the house, correct?
I was just
Wondering if it could be closer.
if it could be moved closer to the main house, you still would have the ability to access, the driveway. It seems like there's a lot of room, and it would get it further away from that curve.
Zoom in on that drawing.
The layout drawing, the dimension's actually there. It's actually 16 feet from the corner of the garage. Now, Melissa's house is it's a drive-under partial basement. So it's 16 feet from that garage. There's a tree there at the corner next to where we're proposing it. There is a concrete kind of pathway. We did play around kind of with the surveyor, with the architect around how do we move it around a little bit, and got to the point to where it started to be very uncomfortably kind of close to the house. Was also looking at, then there's no advantage of, kind of an awkward driveway kind of situation. So it looks far away from the house, but that 16 feet is kind of, there's also the side door to the garage comes out at that corner. So leaving a pathway for the side door, leaving a pathway for the, kind of concrete and brick walkway up to the back deck. That's about as close as we can really get to kind of still leave that space comfortable with not being too congested.
So this is the only location it couldn't go a little bit deeper down and over, just trying to get it off that setback on that curve.
We played with several different arrangements, and this is the best that we could come up with without starting to eat into, you can kind of start to see on the drawing, you see treehouse there. So the backyard is, I'd say, level, but we know level is not exactly, or to say flat, but not exactly level. That's about the only usable backyard structure, or surface in the house or in the property. So the more we start to kick into the backyard, the less use we start to get out of the actual fenced-in backyard that the kids have, their tree house, which would have to come down. trampoline, things like that. So don't really, the best we could optimize was this is how we've proposed it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just to follow up on that.
Sure.
What I'm seeing is a proposed driveway going from the existing concrete driveway into the proposed garage, right?
Correct. I did not want to cut a new drive or try to do any of that. I didn't want to have a drive come into, that curve, into that curve around a cul-de-sac. So we intended to keep it kind of coming off of the main drive, yes.
Sure, but that's already going to be at the same surface level as the slab for the garage, right?
Yes, it is.
So why couldn't the garage be 5 feet closer to the existing concrete driveway?
The pathway starts to incline, and we're going to start to actually dig the pad into kind of subground. So if we move it over 5 feet, now we're basically, the pad is actually going to start to be, because right where that tree is, right where the corner is kind of a crest at the high level. So that backyard kind of from the tree line diagonally or kind of straight across the paper, that's the slope. So that's kind of the high point. High point's at that tree and then starts to come down. The closer we moved into that, now we're, in 2-3 feet into grade, just trying to get it close to the house. And then we've also kind of cramped our walkway to the backyard, to the back deck. And then now there's like a brick cut out for a walkout of the driveway, of the garage right there at that corner. That all has now become extremely cramped.
Are you telling us there's an elevation change from the left side of the concrete driveway where the proposed drive starts to the front edge or the nearest edge of the proposed garage?
Say that again.
Yeah, if you just start, you see where it says concrete driveway?
Yes, sir.
You see where it says proposed or prop drive?
Yes.
If you put your finger in between the two on the line?
Correct.
Right? Is the elevation right there materially different from the elevation at the front edge or the nearest edge of the proposed garage?
I would say no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, if I may add then, Fred, that's a fantastic point. Travis, do you have any objections to moving it closer to the original or to the existing concrete driveway that Fred just alluded to?
We don't have any pictures, do we? Basically, at that, where I've proposed it, where I've had the surveyors mark it, you'll see kind of the line with the X, that's the wooden fence. And I think, Mr. O'Malley, you saw that fence post corner.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple feet from that fence post corner is the walkway that goes into the backyard. There's a gate there.
Okay.
And then that walkway continues around up to, you see the stairs for the deck.
Right.
And that also kind of goes right alongside kind of a little stone alcove for the walkout of the garage right there. So not much more than a foot or two is really all we could probably gain before we lose that walkway or we start to really crowd the walkout of the base. I'm sorry, I keep calling it the basement of the garage itself.
So that walkway,
Yes, ma'am.
wouldn't that be of a benefit to get to your, what you would want to use this garage for recreational purposes on the second floor, that you could somehow move this closer to your concrete driveway, and you may have to redo some of your access points, but I think that it would give the garage more like a connectivity to your house, to your rather than sitting down. And again, it removes it from, it removes it further from that one curve of the road. So I understand that you may have to make some modifications, but then your garage is sort of all connected to your concrete driveway, a little bit more to your house, and you can kind of make that a connection spot right there.
Yeah, there seems like there might be more continuity with Ms. Swanson, Mr. Loin talk about, and comments?
I mean, it's hard to tell from the picture, but that, oh, sorry. The line, like you see from the deck, the bottom, the way we're looking at it, the bottom right corner where that kind of line is with the X, that's the fence. And so it kind of just kind of flows with the fence line. I mean, we were going to take out the left where the left side of the proposed garage is, the fence, so essentially that part of the building is like the fence of the backyard.
Yes.
So I think just the way it would be aligned more with the property, rather than almost if we moved it forward, it would just kind of be this awkward sort of jut out, for lack of a better term. I don't know. I think, in my opinion, it just would flow better with the way the property is set up.
Is there a picture, can you zoom
For the
down
satellite?
on what that looks like? It's hard to,
Could you pull up the satellite?
That?
Yeah. That's really hard to tell. It's so wooded.
So you can, there you can see it looks like that's the fence, right? Right,
Yes.
right to the bottom right of where it says January 22?
Yeah, that's the fence there to that corner, right there. And so basically the left side of the proposed garage would make up that portion of the fence. And just, you can see the big trampoline there, and then the tree sort of up and to the right from that, that's the tree house. So it kind of, there's, from the picture, the drawing, it looks like there's a lot of space between the existing driveway and where the proposed garage is going to be, but I don't know how many feet it is, but it's really not that big of a space, and this kind of just, like I said, it just flows better with the way the house and the property is laid out, in my opinion.
I think the way we have it marked on the inset drawing is about 16 feet. It sounds like a lot, but with the alcove from the walkout of the garage, the existing garage, and then the walkway past it to get to both the backyard and then continue on up to the deck, and then kind of keeping the structure basically in line with the existing fence. I agree. That's why we wanted to set it there, to kind of use that fence post front corner as landing for the structure, because that seems to be about the best place to flow without either moving it too far forward, closer to the driveway, it chokes off the area, or if we move it too far back, we're definitely, very close to the street at that point. We played around with several versions of the drawing with the surveyor. I can tell you, moving it a couple feet forward or back or forward didn't gain a lot on the
Visibility
setback
concern.
that we were talking about on that
Right,
property line.
right.
Moving it backwards obviously did, because now we're moving into the curve. But moving it forward, we're leaving out of the curve, and we're not really gaining much setback at all from the street distance.
And I do just want to say, the big bushes there that are just outside of that yellow line, honestly, that's what reduces the visibility. So I'm happy to remove those, but they really are outside completely of what we're discussing today.
Yes, if I may just add, the comments that the board members made, in my belief, do not affect the opposition's comments about safety or devaluation or usage. It's just more aesthetically our comments about possibly moving it a little bit closer to the garage. I don't think it affects any of the comments that the opposition made.
All right, anybody?
I was just going to add that they've indicated the willingness to move it at least 2 feet closer to the driveway, which I think would be beneficial, and they've indicated the willingness to remove all the bushes by the road at the end of the driveway, which I think would be, as they just indicated, the biggest visibility concern that's out there. And that's all over the county. That's not just here. You can drive all over this county, and there are major intersections where there are visibility problems that could be remedied if somebody just trimmed back or eliminated some bushes. So
They've stated eliminating those bushes, thinning out the heavy trees and brush and everything, or adding additional vegetation, for screenage for neighbors that might, deem it unsightly or what have you. So that they stated they're concerned to work, to achieve all of that in harmony with those in opposition and the entire neighborhood. So therefore, again, I'm going to continue my motion to approve as applied for with no stipulations. Other than if you continue working and if you can move it in closer, I think that's something that you should look at.
Do we have a second?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair,
Yes.
just to clarify, in the motion, there was a condition listed on the agenda, and just want to confirm with Mr. O'Malley whether or not he does wish to include that condition, the number one, or not
Yeah.
in the motion.
It's the.
No
use of the-
residential dwelling use? I've made that very clear.
I just want to confirm that you are
Maybe restate.
including
Let's
that.
just
That needs to be
Yes.
stated, yes. So, yeah, in my motion that no residential dwelling, commercial use of accessory structure is to be performed, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you. Ms. McSwain, if we are ready, let us vote. All righty, it passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
information. All right, we have completed our cases, and now we just simply have some business we need to attend to and approval of the minutes. So has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting and the work session? I'll be glad to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, thank you. Motion to approve the minutes of the variance hearing held on December 15th at 1 p.m. as written.
We have two.
Right, you want me to make them both at the same time?
Yes.
And motion as well to approve the minutes of the January 10, 2022 work session that occurred at 1:30 on that day.
Thank you.
As written.
I second both motions.
All right, all in favor? All right, minutes are approved. Is there any other business that needs to come? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Certainly.
Okay, second for the adjournment? Thank you. All vote? All right. Thank y'all.